Hello and welcome to Discussions with the Director. My name is Dr. Shileste Overton Morris and I serve as the Chief Program Officer at the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit and Director at the Center for Schools and Communities. These discussions give me the opportunity to share with you how our core values connect with our work here at the Center. Our core values include service to others, equity in action, passion for excellence, and innovation for growth. Today, we have a special treat for you. I will be interviewing Dr. Sonia Toledo, founder of New York's Dignity of Children. Dr. Toledo presented 2 sessions at the 2024 Extra Learning Opportunities Conference, which was a unique opportunity for educators with Pennsylvania's Nita M. Lowry 21st Century Community Learning Centers programs to deepen their knowledge, enhance best practices, and hear innovative solutions for working with students in out-of-school time programs. Today's interview will focus on our core values of service to others as we discuss the topic of emotional intelligence and workplace stress among after-school supervisors in low-income communities. I hope you enjoy the interview. Hello, Dr. Toledo. It's a pleasure to have you here today to talk with you about the work that you've been engaged in with students and out-of-school time programs. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself so our audience can get to learn more about you?
Yeah, so I am so grateful and honored to be here. Thank you for having me. Yes, I am Dr. Sonia Toledo from Dignity of Children. I founded Dignity of Children in 2008 for the purpose of creating environments where children are emotionally safe and fully self-expressed so they could thrive. And we've been working mainly with we started at the New York area, and now we're moving across the country in different states. So I'm really honored to be here.
Well, I am so glad you're here. I had the opportunity to sit in on both of your workshops that you presented on and really learned a lot. Your workshop about creating possibilities, how do we educate children about what their potential is, was enlightening.
Yeah.
But today we're going to be talking about your second workshop, emotional intelligence, and why it's important. So can you tell us a little bit about what emotional intelligence is and why it's important in educational settings?
So let me start with, I did my study on my dissertation on the correlation between emotional intelligence and workplace stress among after-school supervisors. And we reached out to over 100 supervisors across New York City, all in the New York City area, and we got about 83 results. And the results came out that if someone has a high emotional intelligence, they perceive workplace stress low.
Wow.
If they have low emotional intelligence, they perceive workplace stress high. And that's really coming from the place of, I understand my emotions and I see my challenges as an opportunity or as a way for me to problem solve what's in front of me.
That's good.
Understanding your own emotions allows you to know how you're going to react. If we don't understand our emotions, then we just react.
Correct.
So someone without emotion, with a low emotional intelligence is just reacting to their emotions and has their emotions be in control of their actions.
Yes, that is so good. I think about a course I recently took in talking about our somatic response, right? Our body's response when our emotions are triggered because of trauma or a certain circumstance that makes us feel threatened, right? And how we have to give ourselves time to pause and reflect so that our body knows it's okay, that we're safe, and then respond so we're not responding out of that kind of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, which is our default response, right? And we actually are doing something or responding in a productive way.
Yeah.
So that is so good.
And I love that you brought up the trauma triggers, right? Because one of the things is that we as adults don't think that we get triggered by trauma, right? We're not understanding what trauma really is. And trauma for all of us, first of all, we all have been traumatized by the pandemic in some way or another.
At least the
At
pandemic.
least, just the basics, right? So we could all have that in common. So there are possible triggers that we may not be aware of, and we go automatically into these behaviors that impact the people that we serve. And we're not even aware of it from, the fight, the flight, and the freeze, right? So we may have these triggers. So someone with emotional intelligence is actually aware of their trauma triggers and work towards their trauma trigger. It's not something that is simple that you could fix right away. It's something that you then decide that you're going to be working on for yourself because it's important to yourself. So I remember at one point when my kids were young, I recognized that I was yelling at them, right? I was raising my voice, and someone said, and they were little. I said, "Why are you yelling at your kids?" And I realized, I was like, oh my God, they don't deserve to be yelled at. I was triggered because of my overwhelmness. I was, a single mom, was very frustrated, just trying to manage everything. But that was the first time that I made that connection, that I have an opportunity to behave differently, even though I was overwhelmed.
Right. I think that's so good. One, to have that acknowledgement that we have a commonality, just as humans, that we've all experienced trauma. And as a result, we have to be aware of what that trauma's impact is on those we serve, especially. I think we don't, as educators especially, necessarily think about how we're responding and reacting in our own, what we call our own way, right? We think that's who we are, instead of interrupting to ask ourselves, is this the right thing? So what else about emotional intelligence? So that self-awareness, what else is included in that?
Well, I think it's very aligned to leadership. We're talking about leadership here. In order for us to give or teach the people that we're responsible for, our staff and our children, emotional and social development, we need to know our own, right? So I can't teach you how to manage your emotions if I can't manage my emotions, right? So we first start with really understanding who we are emotionally and how it impacts others. So self-awareness starts there. I'm aware of myself, I'm aware of my emotions, I'm aware of my reactions. And it's not to say, oh, I raised my voice at you and what happened happened. But when I step away, I get to reflect, as someone who's emotionally intelligent, get to reflect and say, wow, I really didn't handle that right. The opportunity that I have now is to choose, am I going to continue to handle my emotions that way when someone triggers me? Or am I going to learn how to respond differently, because it matters to me how I leave you?
That's so good.
So how I left you should matter to me.
Yes.
As a leader.
Yes.
The other part too is self-management. That's the part of reflection, coming back, apologizing and saying, you know what, you don't deserve that. And there's something that I need to work on for myself, but you don't deserve to be screamed at. You don't deserve for me to raise my voice. And I am going to do my best to not have that happened again.
That's so powerful, because I think we often reflect and say, hey, I didn't go about this the right way.
Right.
But being able to come back and apologize, right? And then say, you're important enough to me that I'm going to work on it for the next time.
Yes.
I don't know that that often happens, especially when we're working with young people, because we often discount their humanity. And
Yes.
they are
Yes.
human and have all of the same emotions and trauma triggers that we do. And I think, again, we often discount their humanity and the rights that they have to be human.
Yes.
So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
And so we already spoke about self-awareness, self-management, right? So me being aware of my emotions, who I am, it's also has to do with what am I up to, right? So I know who I am and I know what I'm up to. Emotional intelligence really helps you understand why you do what you do, as well as, I tend to overeat. And my avenue, my value is health. So this is something that I want to work on. So then self-management becomes, I want to honor myself first.
Yes.
I want to learn how to honor myself. So, if health is part of my values, then what am I doing that is dishonoring me?
Yes.
And, oh boy, could I eat some cake and cookies? So it's managing that.
Right.
So I don't, because when I do overeat, then I feel guilty, I feel overweight, and I'm not the happiest
It's
person.
the shame and the blame
There's
that goes
shame,
along
and
with that.
so all of these emotions come to me, and I'm not the best person when I'm in those emotions, right?
Yes.
But it's not even about the people around me. I'm not the best person to myself, right? It just doesn't feel good. So we have an opportunity to actually make a difference with our own lives as far as happiness and management. What makes me happy? What makes me unhappy? Yeah, I'm doing this for myself.
Right.
I can't coach you on you being healthy if I can't do it for myself.
Yes. And modeling that authenticity and transparency to say, hey, I'm not quite lining up with who I want to be,
Yeah.
who I say I am, is something that I think especially for our staff and
Yes.
for the young people that we're working with and the young people they're working with, can create this space for people to be in their authenticity and be their best selves.
Yes.
And there's so many spaces that don't allow for us to be our best selves. And I think that's so important
Yeah.
for our staff. Working in very, as you said, stressed situations and feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So yes, I totally agree with that.
So then the next part, right? So I'm handling me, I'm managing me, and then now I have this responsibility of managing all these people around me. So my social awareness is, how do I now, I'm able to influence, coach, teach, guide my staff, my families, my children, and how am I doing? How well am I doing? It's an opportunity to go back to my self-awareness, understand how I leave you, right? So if I'm just blaming my staff for not coming in on time, let's put, I'm just complaining that they're late and but what am I doing to actually promote that? Like, it's okay to come late because there's no consequences. Or, I just complain, and complaining doesn't really do anything. It just means that she's complaining.
Exactly.
And how could I actually influence my staff to know the value of coming in on time? So me as someone who's interested in really making an impact, I take responsibility for that. One, I'm enabling my staff. I'm also being a victim by complaining. I'm also acknowledging that I'm really not doing anything. I haven't set any clear standards, structure, or consequences for it to happen. Those are my responsibility.
As the leader, yes.
As a leader, I'm now responsible to manage social awareness. This is what's happening. And now I get to manage relationships, right? So in managing my relationships, let's go back to the drawing board. We're going to have a meeting, and I want to apologize because I didn't tell you the reason why coming in on time is so critical for the work that we do. We have a value that our kids have to be safe. And in order for our kids to be safe, we all need to be in position on time. It takes a second for a child to get hurt or be abducted. Studies has shown.
Yes.
So in this environment, we're going to put safety on the top of our list, and it's going to begin with everybody coming to work on time and being in post on time. Now, what are the consequences? Well, we don't want consistent tardiness. If you know that you're going to be late, communicate. So we could have an alternative plan. If you know that you're going to be absent, communicate so we could have an alternative plan. Once you become consistent in your lateness and your absency, we need to sit down and see how I could support you. Because maybe it may be something at your home or in your situation, you know, the staff situation, that it's out of their control and they don't really know how to manage that. So let me help you problem solve for you to come in on time. Because it's also workforce readiness skills for you to be on time to any job.
Any job.
Any job, not just this job. So I'm going to help you out. Now, if I see that you are not, you're still having chronic lateness and absence, then there's an opportunity for me to set some clear consequences like docking, whatever those consequences are. Or maybe this is not the job for you. Maybe this is like not what lights you up. It doesn't get you excited to get here on time.
Right.
So you need to find another job that gets you excited to get to work on time. But being on time is valuable.
Exactly.
Me as a supervisor will take responsibility not just for you coming in on time, but for your development and your growth as an employee.
That's so good. I not only did you teach us how to have a difficult conversation, right? Because as a supervisor, you mainly like your staff, right? And when they're doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, it is hard to kind of have that conversation about them being late, right? Or about them not being where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. And I'm going to encourage everybody who's watching to rewind and kind of document that script that you just shared, because it is critical to name it, right? You're late, and that's not acceptable.
Yes.
And your role still as a leader to support your staff and getting them to where they need to be in order to be successful. And not just saying if you're late one more time, right? But really that digging deep, that mining to establish that relationship so that you can be able to manage it in a way that's mutually beneficial for you as the supervisor, for your organization, for the children that you serve, and for that employee. So I really thank you for that. I'm going to rewind myself and document that script and share it. So I heard you say that self-awareness is important, self-management is important for emotional intelligence, that social consciousness, and managing those relationships. So I really appreciate what you shared with us today. I know I learned a lot and appreciate the way you've been able to speak to us in such a plain way, right? So that we can all take back these terrific tips to help us be better leaders. So thank you for being here at the Extra Learning Opportunities Conference, and thank you for taking the time to sit with me and talk.
Oh, this is awesome.
And I look forward to more conversations with you. And if folks want to get in touch with you, your information will be at the end of this discussions with the director. And thank you.
Yeah, and it starts with us. We're changing the world, but we have to begin with us so we could then teach our staff, staff teach our kids, and this is why emotional intelligence is a very critical piece of our work. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I'm learning and growing to be emotionally intelligent. So thank you.